Please let me out.
G'day!
Hey!
Welcome back to another video. This weekend we're here in Gundagai, which is situated on the Murrumbidgee River in southern New South Wales. And it's a town that's been shaped by natural disaster and has some of Australia's most compelling frontier stories, including a tale of a bushranger who definitely breaks the typical mould. Now, our first stop today is going to be the Gundagai Jail, having already stopped off at the visitor centre to collect our audio, headphones, key and map. Now, the jail was constructed in 1859 with additional structures being added in later years, and this magnificent stone boundary was constructed in 1866. Now, the jail initially started out as just a police lockup, and it didn't start operating as a jail until 1861, and it continued to do so through to 1909, after which it was relegated back to a police lockup until an actual holding cell was constructed in the police station just across the road from us here. So we've got our key. Let's get into it. So prisoners with short-term sentences, generally less than 12 months, were incarcerated here at the Gundagai Jail, having been sentenced either here in Gundagai itself or at the local courts of the surrounding district. Now, the other folks to be incarcerated here were prisoners, including bushrangers, who were in transit to other jails or to trial elsewhere.
Now we're sitting here in the middle of the Gundagai Jail, and Michelle's got a story she wants to tell me.
Well, we've learned that without a doubt, the most notorious prisoner to be held in the Gundagai Jail was Andrew George Scott, who would later reinvent himself as Captain Moonlite. Now, Moonlite was born in Northern Ireland in 1842, and he grew up very well educated, the son of an Anglican priest. And for a time, his life looked set along a respectful path. After first migrating to New Zealand, he eventually migrated here to Australia, in Victoria to be specific, likely around 1868. Now, in around March of 1869, he's sent as a lay reader to a place called Egerton, or possibly Edgerton, near Ballarat. So drop us a comment below which one's correct. Now, a lay reader is an authorised member of the church who's permitted to lead sermons and preach. Now, it was here that he made friends with James Simpson, the local schoolmaster, and LJ Brune, the agent or manager for the town's bank. Now, on the 8th of May, 1869, Moonlite, wearing a mask and a cloak that was fooling absolutely no one, held up the bank agent, his friend, and forced him to empty the contents of the safe. He then forced his friend, the bank agent, to write a note claiming the bank agent's resistance to the robbery, and then Moonlite himself signed off Captain Moonlite, purposely misspelling the word moonlight to throw the authorities off his well-educated self. Moonlite then escaped to Sydney, and the bank agent, and I'm pretty sure the schoolmaster, were both arrested for the robbery. Now, they were later acquitted, but wow, what a friend.
You bastard!
Talk about a baby. Now, the following year, in November of 1870, Moonlite fraudulently bought a yacht, aptly named Why Not, with a fake cheque. And water police arrested him as he attempted to leave for Fiji.
Why the hell did he go to Fiji?
See here? Yeah. This is us. And all the way around here, Fiji. You can't get any further away before you start coming back.
On the 20th of December 1870, he was sentenced to 12 months at the Maitland Jail, some of which he spent in the Parramatta Lunatic Asylum, feigning madness, which is believed to have been an attempt to engineer an escape from the minimum security facility. Now, after his eventual release from the Maitland Jail in 1872, he was immediately extradited back to Victoria and held in the Ballarat Jail on remand over the prior Egerton bank robbery, which we discussed. Now, Moonlite actually managed to escape the Ballarat Jail and make it all the way to Bendigo on foot, which is some 115 kilometres. But he was eventually recaptured and stood trial, where he chose to defend himself, which was very Ted Bundy of him.
But why?
But he was ultimately unsuccessful and was sentenced to 10 years hard labour and an additional 1 year for escaping in the Pentridge Jail. Now, it's here at Pentridge that he meets Australian-born James Nesbitt. Now, Moonlite was eventually released in March of 1879, and Moonlite and Nesbitt, along with a small gang, go on to hold up Wantabadgery Station, which was a sheep station near Wagga Wagga, on the 18th of November 1879 for 2 days. Now, in an ensuing confrontation with the police over this hold-up, 2 of Moonlite's gang were killed, including Nesbitt, and a constable, Edward Webb Brown. Now, Moonlite and his living accomplices were held here at the Gundagai Jail while they awaited committal proceedings at the adjacent Gundagai Courthouse. It was from here that they were then sent to Sydney for trial. So as I said, Senior Constable Edward Webb Bowen was killed at Wantabadgery Station in the ensuing confrontation between Moonlite's gang and police. Webb Bowen was shot in the left side of the neck, and the bullet travelled through to his spine, instantly paralysing him. Now, he didn't succumb to his injuries immediately. Instead, he lived for an agonising 6 days before he died due to blood poisoning as a result of the gunshot wound. So he died on the 23rd of November 1879, aged just 28 years old, and he left behind a young wife and a 3-year-old son. The 35-year-old Moonlite was found guilty of murder, and he, along with one of his accomplices, Thomas Baker, better known as Rogan, were hanged at the Darlinghurst Jail on the 20th of January 1880. Now, interestingly, they were sentenced by the same judge who would sentence Ned Kelly later that same year. Now, in a letter to Nesbitt's mother, Moonlite declared his dying wish, writing in reference to Nesbitt, "His hopes were my hopes, and his grave will be my resting place. And I trust I may be worthy to be with him, where we shall all meet to part no more." There has been much discussion among historians as to the nature of Moonlite and Nesbitt's relationship, with some interpreting their actions as those of devoted lovers. While the exact details will of course never be known with certainty, Moonlite's own words in the letters he penned to friends and family whilst awaiting his execution, and his actions after Nesbitt's death, certainly suggest a bond that held deep and emotional significance to him. Now, unsurprisingly, Moonlite's request to be buried with Nesbitt wasn't granted, and he was instead interred in the Rookwood Cemetery in Sydney, some 300 kilometres away from where Nesbitt was buried here in Gundagai in an unmarked grave. It would take over a century for Moonlite's dying wish to finally be granted, when his remains were exhumed from the Rookwood Cemetery and reinterred here at a spot outside of Gundagai at the North Gundagai Cemetery, which is believed to be near to where Nesbitt rests in an unmarked grave, but whose location is not definitively known. The reburial took place in 1995, following a campaign by 2 local women who came across some of Moonlite's speeches and were moved by his loyalty to Nesbitt. And that concludes the story of Captain Moonlite, whose story ultimately isn't remembered for gunfire and outlaw bravado typically expected of bushrangers, but rather for that unwavering loyalty and fierce devotion and humanity that he demonstrated in his final days, which certainly wasn't expected of somebody in his position, nor from someone from that time period.
So that's enough talk about quirky bushrangers. Let's go and find a pub because I'm getting quite hungry. It's lunchtime.
And stick around because we are going to deep dive into the events of the infamous flood of 1852. We'll catch you soon.
Did you just try a dad joke?
The original town of Gundagai, gazetted as a township in 1838, was built on a floodplain of the Murrumbidgee River just south of the site of the current township, despite warnings from local Indigenous people that the area was prone to flooding. Now, Gundagai quickly grew as a service town for travellers and pastoralists, and in 1838 a punt service was established at Stuckey's Crossing, somewhere in this vicinity of the river, and was the only place to cross the Murrumbidgee River en route between Sydney and Melbourne. By 1852, 250 people were estimated to be living in Gundagai. In the middle of the night of the 24th of June 1852, after weeks of heavy rain, the Murrumbidgee River broke its banks and surged into the town of Gundagai. Now, the waters rose quickly and became a raging torrent that swept whole buildings away and left residents clinging to trees for their lives. The water rose as high as 14 feet, that's about 4.3 metres, recorded at the highest part of the town. Now, this flood marker here indicates that it was the second largest flood, this marker showing that the water rose to almost 40 feet in this location. The foundation of the national or government school is all that remains of a scene of one of the saddest tragedies to occur in the 1852 flood. The headmaster of the school and his wife, his 5 children and 2 13-year-old girl boarders were marooned in the schoolhouse when the floodwaters rose. And as the torrent of water came through Gundagai, it collapsed the walls of the schoolhouse, drowning the whole family and the 2 boarders. This cairn behind us was erected in memory of the destruction of the school, the drowning of the family and the boarders, and the deaths of up to 82 residents of Gundagai. A total of 71 buildings were destroyed by the flood, leaving only 3 left standing and within view of the water when it receded on the 28th of June. Now, the total death toll is not known for certain due to just the amount of travellers that frequented the area given its location and the fact that many of the bodies were never recovered. The disaster remains the deadliest flood in Australia's recorded history. Majority of the rescues of that historical flood disaster were completed by the Indigenous Wiradjuri heroes, Yarri and Jackie using bark canoes. Now, they were assisted by other Indigenous people, including Long Jimmy and Tommy Davis, and all in all, they rescued 69 people from the floods. On the 25th of June 2017, for the 165th anniversary of the Great Flood, this bronze statue was unveiled in the main street of Gundagai of Yarri and Jackie. And it was created by a Melbourne artist titled The Great Rescue of 1852.
All right, that brings us to the end of our weekend here in Gundagai. We're up the top having a look over the town at Mount Parnassus. Is that right? Parnassus?
Sure.
Let's say that. You're going to tell us in the comments if we're wrong, so we'll wait for that. I apologise for my voice this weekend. I've had a flu about a week ago and my voice hasn't come back. But yeah, it's been a good weekend in Gundagai. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you want to watch this again, hit that subscribe button. And I've heard there's a thing called a hype button. I don't know how to find that one on my TV, so I haven't used it yet, but yeah, see if you can find a hype button there somewhere. Press that. Don't know what it does. We'll work that out if someone presses it. Otherwise, we'll see you in our next installment of the Ned Kelly series in a few weeks' time. So thanks for watching from myself, Shell, and little Charlie that tagged along on this video. Cheers.
Bye.
I did it all, I played pretend, I moved the mountains to be your friend. I wanna know if it mattered. I would have gone to war for you, I would have bent the earth into
some 300 kilometres from Nesbitt. How much of that? It would take over a cemetery. Oh gosh, it's not a great.
Someone thinks she's tired.
Put me in the middle of the road.
There you go. Good.
This is nice and safe. The original town, despite warnings from the local indigenous people that the area was blown.
Blown.
Doing so well too.